All right, what's going on, guys? Dr. Thompson here with Exemplify Health Center, your Wellness Way affiliate, right here in Yorkville, Illinois. Happy Monday. Yes, I am going live earlier. I know I say I go live at night, but then I look at my schedule and I realize I won't be getting out of the office until 8:30 probably, so had a little time at lunchtime. Hopefully, guys, if you're not watching live, you can go back, watch the replay. Guys, make sure you share this because I'm going to be going over with you what is your opinion on, and thank you very much, guys, for submitting a ton of questions. I always appreciate that. But we're going to go over a lot of different things. We're going to talk with you about osteoarthritis, my opinion on knee surgery, my opinion on the COVID-19 vaccine, opinion on alternatives to treatment for COVID. I'm also going to go over, should I go vegan in order to control cholesterol? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Anyway, there's a lot of different things that we're going to go over. So again, guys, thank you so much for submitting those questions, and I'm going to give you my opinion. All right. So again, it's just an opinion. This is really weird seeing a picture of myself right here. That guy looks a lot better than I do right now. So let's go over opinions. So guys, a lot of different things I'm going to go over. If you submitted a question, I'm going to answer it today. So make sure you continue to watch. And guys, please make sure that you share this, because not only am I just going to give not just a short opinion, but I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why it's my opinion. Because too many times people have opinions, and when they give their opinion, I'm always curious as far as saying, well, why is that your opinion? And a lot of times people say, well, that's just because what my doctor said, or that's just because the person that I follow on Facebook said, or that's because of what this person said on Instagram. I see so many people in the natural health world who have opinions on things, and they have no idea why, and they have no idea how they can actually back it up. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a long format type of answer in support of why my opinion is that. So that way, guys, it makes a lot of sense to you. So guys, please make sure that you share this, because I'm going to go over a lot of different things. And chances are, if you guys submitted this as a question, wanting to know my opinion, chances are that there's a lot of other people that have those questions as well. So I always appreciate you guys being on live, and I always appreciate when you like, when you comment, when you share. Always, it's great as always. All right. So Jeanette, let's get right into it. Jeanette asked this question: what is your opinion on knee surgery? Is there a way to fix bone on bone in the knee to avoid surgery? So Jeanette, thank you very much for giving us that question. So here's my opinion on knee surgery, is that yes, sometimes it's needed, and many times surgery is not needed, and it just depends on the context as far as what the injury actually is. So I'm going to give you an example. Are there times where people need knee surgery? Now, I think from what you are asking me is, do I need knee surgery if I have a lot of osteoarthritis and degeneration? So I'll answer that question. However, is there a time and a place for knee surgery? And I would say yes. Probably the biggest reason why there has to have some kind of knee surgery is when there's been some kind of disruption in ligamentous tissue or some kind of major destruction in through the meniscus, especially. So if someone goes and they tear their ACL, they tear their PCL, and they have a 100% complete tear, depending on their age. So if they're younger, I'm going to probably say, yep, you need to have that repaired, you need to have that fixed. And the reason why is because anytime you have a complete disruption of a ligament, you're going to have a lot of instability, and the body's going to try to fix that instability with a lot of scarring and a lot of degeneration and a lot of eventually leading to arthritis. And so if someone is actually young, sometimes that ligament is not going to heal on its own. However, if they're older, they don't need it for any kind of athletic participation or anything like that. Sometimes it's okay, depending on what their goals are, to actually, just rehab it and try to get everything around it as stable as possible. So I had an ankle reconstruction when I was 20 years of age, and I tried to play basketball a whole season on it, and it was so inflamed and arthritic by the end of the season. I just had to have the whole thing reconstructed and tightened back up, because otherwise it would have caused, not only was causing a lot of issues with inflammation and pain then, but it certainly would have, even a couple years down the road. Now, your question is surgery for osteoarthritis, especially when you're saying bone on bone. So really, I think what you mean is that the meniscus has actually gotten very thinned out. The meniscus has probably torn and deteriorated, and then the bones around it, there's a lot of spurring and things like that. So what's my opinion on it? Well, here's my opinion on this surgery. Is number one, a lot of times what the doctor says is they say, well, we need to just go into that knee and we need to clean it out, okay? And it makes sense, doesn't it? We need to go in and just, remove like some of the fragments, some of the scar tissue and things like that. However, this is what's amazing, is that when they have actually done studies on the efficacy of going in for arthroscopic surgery to quote unquote clean it out, the results have actually been no better than a placebo. So they did this a couple of years ago. And so they took a group of people and they put them all to sleep, and half the group, they just put the incisions of where they would put in the scope and did nothing. And then the other group of people, they actually went in and did what's known as an arthroscopic debridement. And the results post-operatively were exactly the same. So as far as going in to try to clean out a joint, I don't recommend that at all. It doesn't even outperform a placebo. Now, what can you do obviously instead? So if there's been a lot of bone-on-bone deterioration and things like that, just remember this, because I've had some people whose knees were so deteriorated that they literally were in a walker, and the doctors would recommend total knee replacement. I've had a few patients like this. And I said, well, why don't we just do this instead? The biggest thing with arthritis or any type of destruction of the tissue is that you have to get it moving again, okay? So you got to get it moving. So that's why I tell people, if you got a lot of deterioration, get it moving, start squatting, restore the motion, restore the alignment to it, check the feet too to make sure that the feet aren't contributing to it, and start exercising. So guys, a joint will deteriorate when you immobilize it. And a lot of times with osteoarthritis, it becomes very immobile, and that actually just keeps building on it and continues to make it move less and less, and the deterioration will become more and more. From a chemical perspective too, remember, inflammation is going to go to where there's been specifically tissue destruction. So make sure that you are avoiding food allergies, eating a non-inflammatory diet, and that can do wonders for people as far as their mobility and their overall levels of pain. So do I think that you need knee surgery? Well, I've never actually examined you, but my opinion on knee surgery, especially with I think what you are talking about, is actually no, you don't. But what you do need to do is start moving it and start to exercise it and try to get some of that strength and mobility back. Okay. Julie asked a great question. What is your opinion on elderly patients stuck in their unhealthy ways, 81 years old with chronic pain, post-lumbar surgeries? See that a lot. Atrial fibrillation, hypertension, gout, and depression. My 77-year-old mom has moderate Alzheimer's on anxiety meds. Lots of stresses throughout their lives. Thankfully, they're still independent. I worry about them and what, if any, they could do to reverse those things at this point. So, Julie, thanks for that question. I see you actually just popped on right now. Well, this is a very complex answer, but I will say this, okay, is that when people say, can you help them? The first thing that I ask is, do they want to be helped? Because many times people ask questions on behalf of someone else, and my reply is do they even want help? Because remember, you can't help anybody if they don't want help. This is really hard when it comes to your parents, because remember this, Julie, is that your parents, if you are a daughter, doesn't matter how old you are, they still changed your diaper, and they probably won't listen to any health advice. All right, I'm just going to come out and say that because, in quite honestly, the people who listen to me the least are the people who changed my diaper, and they're also family members and close friends. So if you're a family or a close friend, I'm not mad, but you just don't listen because they know me in a different capacity. So they don't know me in this capacity. Can they be helped with this? Yes, they need probably a lot of testing that is going on. There might be a lot of things involved with their gastrointestinal system, stool, probably minerals, probably just a lot of systemic inflammation. Same thing, probably have some blood sugar issues as well. But the thing is yes, they probably can get a lot of help. And I always say, like, if you're still breathing and you still can have the ability to be able to heal, which if you're alive, you can, then yes, you can help them. It just determines how much, because a lot of times there can be a lot of permanent damage. But one of the biggest thing is this, is that they probably won't listen to you, and they're stuck in their ways. They're probably not going to change. This is what I say, guys, is I desperately don't ever want to be this person who is always stuck in their ways. That's why I'm always learning. Because when you get stuck in your ways, I guess it's just time to just shrivel up and die. So if they want help, then yes, but I will say this, save yourself a lot of stress, okay? Save yourself a lot of stress. I want you to live according to a way that is going to bring health for you. And I want you to be an amazing example for them. And when they are ready, the easiest way to know they're ready is they will ask, okay? So nobody likes someone who is always hounding someone that they need to change, because chances are they really do know that they need to change. They just don't want to be hounded every single day. So just remember, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so save yourself the stress, and be an example. And when they're ready, they're going to ask. But just remember this, is don't get stressed out about the consequences of their bad behavior, okay? You will actually drive yourself into a state of just so much stress when you start taking responsibility for their bad behavior. So there are some people who I say, here's what you need to do, here's what you need to do. They decide not to do it, and they are suffering the consequences of not following my advice. I don't take it personally. I don't stress out about it. And in fact, I'm like, you can get back on the bus, but you're going to pay me. That's what I say is, I say, hey, whenever you want to get off the bus, you can get off the bus. This bus is going to be coming around again. And if you're going to get back on the bus, put in your token in order to get back on the bus, because there's a fee to do that. So don't stress yourself back out, especially. That's a great question. All right, Amanda said, what's your opinion on arthritis? What do you think triggers it? Really enjoy listening to the wealth of information you share. Well, I appreciate that, Amanda. Thank you very much. But here's my opinion on arthritis. And basically, the medical definition of arthritis is, these guys don't like look into it too much, is inflammation of a joint. Okay, so anytime that you got inflammation of a joint, that's all it is. So it can be inflammation in your spine, it can be inflammation in your knee, it can be inflammation in your elbow, it can be inflammation, anywhere there's a joint and it's inflamed. So like, how on earth does a joint get inflamed? Well, I'm going to say this, is I'm a chiropractor, and so one of the things that we're always focusing on is alignment. So if something has abnormal weight bearing or abnormal weight distribution, then what's going to happen is it's going to wear down faster. And so during that process of it wearing down faster, it's going to become inflamed. So you have to look at actual mechanics, and you have to look at alignment. And if something is out of alignment, then yes, it's going to wear down quicker and it's going to get inflamed. Here's a perfect case in point. How many times has someone said, you need a brand new knee? Well, why do I need a brand new knee, doctor? Well, because you're just old. And it's like, yeah, but my one knee is 60 years of age, and so is my other, and my other knee is actually fine. So there's got to be something that is causing it, and a lot of it has to do with alignment. Let's take the knee, for example. So the knee, one of the biggest things that we do is, how do the feet look? Is the knee abnormally rotated? On top of that, what's going on chemically as well? Because remember, you have a lot of chemical inflammation. It tends to settle in the place is getting broken down the fastest. So I'll give you a perfect example. If I get chemically inflamed, then my lower back tends to hurt, even in the absence of any kind of trauma, because those are some of the most chronic issues. So when it comes to arthritis, one of the things that you need to look at is you need to look at alignment, and then you also need to look at motion. Because remember, if something doesn't move right, it will become very stiff and it will become very painful. That makes no, I'll give you a perfect example. You break your wrist, they put a cast on it for 8 weeks. The cast goes, it crosses your elbow, and then so you're like this for 8 weeks. They take the cast off, that elbow is going to feel very weak, it's going to feel very stiff, it's going to be very painful. So at that point, the doctor's not going to say, yep, I think you developed arthritis in this elbow. I guess you just need to be on a bunch of anti-inflammatories and just be on your way. Doctor's going to look at you and say, you know what? it's stiff and weak and painful because it hasn't moved for a while. So we need to actually start moving it and start strengthening it. So that's why you need to get alignment back. You need to start moving it correctly. You need to start strengthening that area. And then you also need to make sure you're paying attention to some of those chemical triggers that are causing inflammation, because chemical inflammation loves to settle in where there has been physical inflammation as well. So my opinion, do you need to be on anti-inflammatories and things like that? No, but there are things that can help to modulate inflammation. I will say getting back to the gastrointestinal system will help with inflammation more than anything else. But people say, well, should I take turmeric? Should I take MSM? Should I take glucosamine, chondroitin? Should I take all of those things? And I said, well, I love turmeric, but figure out why you need to take it in the first place rather than dumping a bunch of supplements into your system. All right. Susan asked an awesome question about my opinion on supplements, collagen supplements, as a coffee additive for keto, butter creamers, and things like that. All right, my opinion on collagen. Do I like collagen? Absolutely. So I'm a huge fan of collagen. I actually take bone broth protein every single day. And the reason why is because, one of the reasons why people tend to look older, okay? So you ever notice, like, what causes people to look old? Because as you age, the collagen production goes down. Remember, collagen is great for your soft tissues. So collagen is needed for the gastrointestinal system. Collagen is needed for red blood cell production, especially. Collagen is needed for your joints. Collagen is needed for your skin. So two biggest things that you need when it comes to having even healthy skin, making sure that you have enough collagen, number one, and then number two, making sure you're getting enough vitamin C, because that helps with the synthesis of collagen. So I'm a huge fan of collagen. I think that we don't eat enough collagen. 100 years ago, we used to have a lot of bone broth. We used to eat the whole entire cow from nose to tail. But now we typically don't have enough collagen. But also remember this is, stress can make your skin look very old. So this cortisol production can make your skin look very old. And the reason why is because vitamin C especially. So vitamin C, if you're constantly stressed out, you need that vitamin C, especially in order to make adrenaline. And so if all of those resources are going to you to try to get out of the emergency, you're not going to have a lot of vitamin C left over for healthy collagen production. So this is why if you're constantly stressed, then what happens is that it actually can show up and you can start looking old in the skin. Most people don't realize I'm actually 67 years of age. Just kidding. But am I a fan of it? Absolutely. The only thing I would watch out for is I use a bone broth protein. There's a lot of collagen powders and things like that, and you got to watch out for it because a lot of them come from actual eggshells. Okay, and if you have an egg allergy, which I've seen a lot of people do, then some of those things can really upset the gastrointestinal system, especially if it's getting derived from eggshells. So, thank you very much for that question, Sherry. Ottery has a question: what is your opinion on osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, and scoliosis together or separate? I have them all. Is one caused by the others? That's a great question, Sherry. I want to take you back to what's known as the Swiss watch principle, okay? So I like how you're thinking, because can all of those things contribute together? And the answer is absolutely. So I just did a consultation with a guy, 40 years of age, having problems with literally his skin is literally peeling off his hands, terrible anxiety, acid reflux, Barrett's esophagus. I mean, all of these things going together. And he said, there's not been one person that has been able to tie in all of these loose ends on why all of these things are actually happening to me. And he said, because I've been to the gastroenterologist, I've been to the psychologist, I've been to where else? To the sleep specialist, and I've been to the ear, nose, and throat because he's got terrible sinus polyps. So I've been to all those different things, and the only thing they've ever said is they've only looked at my one condition and offered me either a machine or a medication for it. So when it comes to osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, and scoliosis together, let's address scoliosis. So scoliosis is any kind of abnormal curvature of the spine. So can that lead to osteoarthritis? Yes, 100%. Because remember, when there's a scoliosis and the spine is shifted in all of these different directions, there's going to be abnormal loading on the spine on one side versus the other. So one of the things that you will see is the spine that actually has more, the side of the spine that has more load, you will see it degenerate and deteriorate faster on one side versus the other. Now watch. When that side of the spine starts to deteriorate, as it begins building up what's known as spurring or osteophytic spurring, then those things can start to encroach into the neurology that goes into organ systems and muscles and things like that. So yes, that's one of the things. And in fact, when you look at people with a scoliosis, their average loss of lifespan is, and when it's uncorrected, is about 15 years. And many times these people suffer issues with lung issues, with heart issues, and problems in the gastrointestinal system as well. So remember too, any time that the spine is in this shifted and in this curved position, it's a big time stressor on the brain, and you're going to see way more stress hormones, which is a perfect recipe for the gastrointestinal system to shut down, which can lead to low stomach acid production. And that actually can get into, well, why do I have osteoporosis? So one of the biggest reasons for osteoporosis is because you need a very high stomach acid environment in order to be able to absorb your calcium, in order to to absorb calcium. So there's so many people who are taking calcium supplements, and yet they're still osteoporotic. It makes no sense. So you got to get back to, because we get more than enough calcium in our diet. Heck, if you just have a few servings of like broccoli, you will get enough calcium that you need in order for your bones to be able to remodel themselves. So, but what you do need is you need stomach acid, and then you also need things like magnesium, manganese. You need vitamin D. You need vitamin K. So you need a high stomach acid environment, but to absorb vitamin K and vitamin D, you also need to have enough bile acid production. So you can literally become osteoporotic from not having enough stomach acid and not having a liver that's kicking out enough bile acids to go into the gallbladder. And then the other thing is you might not be actually doing enough high impact type of exercise. That's why I'm a fan of weight training, not just walking, but things that need impact, like squatting and jumping and pressing, all under load, under weight, because the more that you are loading the spine and loading the joints, the more that the body has to adapt to it by starting to strengthen and lay down more bone. So a lot of these are going to be tied together. So thanks for that question, Sherry. Toby says, what's your opinion on exercise with tapped out adrenals? All right. I love exercise. I do not like exercise when someone has a quote unquote tapped out adrenal. So biggest question that I would have is because, guys, we have fallen in love with this whole idea behind adrenal fatigue. All right. Oh, my adrenals are fatigued. Your adrenals don't get fatigued. What your adrenals do is they will downregulate. Okay. So it's very hard to have adrenal fatigue, just like it's very hard to have insulin-dependent diabetes if there is not an autoimmune reaction, okay? So before you'll start seeing, because by the time, and yes, we have seen people who they cannot produce insulin anymore, but they have absolutely abused themselves for many decades before the pancreas cannot produce insulin anymore. And it's the same thing with the adrenals, is it takes a long time for those adrenals to get very tired or not be able to make cortisol or DHEA and some of these other hormones that the adrenals are responsible for, especially after menopause. But the biggest question I always say is yes, you might have low adrenal function, but I want you to figure out why. Why do you have low adrenal function? And that's the biggest thing that you need to figure out, is why on earth would you have low adrenal function? And the biggest reason why someone would have low adrenal function, for a woman, it would be because of chronic mental stress. Or number two, it would be because they are probably dealing with something involving the immune system, like some kind of high inflammation or some kind of infection that's going on. You might be under eating too, can cause low adrenal function. And just remember this is the thyroid is really responding to what's happening at the level of the adrenal glands. So we're going to be doing a whole thyroid talk, and I want you to know, guys, if your thyroid is bad, the thyroid is like you get a lot of other things that are going wrong before you start seeing it in the thyroid. So biggest thing that I would say is figure out why your adrenals are tapped out. But should you be exercising when you are having very low adrenal function? My answer is no, you shouldn't. So this is where no, you shouldn't be constantly doing 20-minute metabolic conditioning. You shouldn't be going and jogging for an hour. You shouldn't be trying to demand stress hormone like cortisol when the body says, I don't want to produce it, okay? And yes, you can grind it out, but you're just digging a bigger hole when it comes to it. So I have said, I own a gym, and I have told people, I said, listen, put your membership on pause. I want you to be able to recover. Let everything start to recover, start to lower that inflammation. And it's the same thing, guys, with your hormones. If your hormones are out of whack, we have someone I'm going to be meeting with, very low hormones, and it's a response. It is not necessarily a cause. So you can do other things, though, that don't demand a lot of cortisol, like just walking, doing a lot of static holds, so things that aren't elevating your heart rate. So isometric type exercises. So yes, you can still do some things, but trying to blast yourself with 20-minute, Metcons 5 days a week is not going to be helping you, especially. All right. Thanks for the question, Toby. Sharon Fitzgerald Cardinal says, I'm wondering whether you think the fact that COVID is treatable by anti-malarial, anti-parasitic medication like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. Could that also mean a supplement like Wormwood would be helpful in either treating or reducing symptoms? Just a theory. That is a great question, Sherry. I like how you're thinking. My guess is that you've been studying this for a very long time. You might be in the Wellness Way Academy. Maybe. I don't know. But that's a question that is very good. So let me give my opinion on this. All right. So listen, hydroxychloroquine, yes, is something that works with COVID, okay? And so ivermectin does as well. Now, here's my opinion on this, is that even not having hydroxychloroquine and not having ivermectin is that the survival rate of a COVID infection is 99.9x, whatever you want to call it. But the survival rate is very good. That should be good news. It's 99 point something %. So that's good. All right. I always will say this, and I actually did a video like a year ago because someone asked me about COVID-19, and I gave my opinion a year ago, and I was 100% right exactly. Go back to about late February, and you will see I said, here's what's going to happen, and everything that we said has come true. But just remember this, is that 100 people get COVID, one person dies. They get the same infection, so why does that one person die and the other 99% do fine? In fact, their immune systems are stronger for having that infection because it has nothing to do with the virus, and it has everything to do with their immune system. So what about wormwood? Things like that? Yes, and in fact, the mechanism of action with wormwood, and in fact, wormwood does a lot of things. It's very anti-parasitic. In fact, we'll give it to people who have intestinal parasites, things like that. But really what wormwood does, and the reason why, yes, it could, and I'm not going to say it does, but it could, is because wormwood helps to increase the CD8 response inside of the body. CD8 response is really increasing what are known as natural killer cells. And what do natural killer cells do? Natural killer cells help with killing off cancer cells, and they also CD8 cells help with cancer cells, and they help being able to get rid of cells that are virally infected. So yes, and they have given wormwood in other parts of the country. It's not necessarily called wormwood. It's called something different. But wormwood, yes, has a mechanism of working very similar to hydroxychloroquine. All right. Now, there's other things too that can help with it. And guys, this is why there's very rarely ever just one thing that's going to get you better, because even gymnema could help. Even nettle leaf could help, because remember, nettle actually binds to ACE receptors, and your ACE receptors, angiotensin converting enzyme receptors, are in the lungs and the gastrointestinal system, and how COVID actually enters into the body is through these ACE receptors. So if you're constantly taking something that can compete for those receptor sites, and now it's filled with nettle leaf, now those receptor sites actually aren't open in order to receive the protein that could cause a COVID infection. So there's a lot of different things. Heck, vitamin D could actually help. Zinc could help. Yes, vitamin C could help. So could echinacea. So could elderberry. I mean, depending on what your lab work looks like, all of those different things could actually benefit you. But wormwood has the same mechanism of action than hydroxychloroquine would. So I like how you're thinking with that, Sharon. Cheryl, thanks for the question. Cheryl says, what is your opinion on the COVID vaccines? Ooh. And what's your opinion on a vegan diet to reduce cholesterol numbers? All right, we got to break this up into two. Let's talk about the COVID vaccine. What's my opinion on it? My opinion is that the COVID vaccine is not it's not a vaccine at all, because there is no actual attenuated virus. It is actually RNA that is encapsulated. In fact, really what it is, it's an immunological biologic. So it's a synthetic biological that alters your immune system. So I am 100% against this. And one of the reasons why I'm 100% against a quote-unquote biologic, because it's not really a vaccine, is because of this. Remember, COVID has a 99.9x% recovery rate. Not only that, but they have also admitted that hydroxychloroquine actually works really well for infections. So think of this. You got a strong immune system. COVID's not going to bother you. Yes, you may have some symptoms for a few days. It's called an infection, but you're going to survive from it. Let's say that you have pre-existing conditions like hypertension, type 2 diabetes, which that is the one that's decimating the most. Why aren't we having people stop eating so much doggone sugar? My goodness. A year ago, we could have said, hey guys, this is really decimating people with blood sugar issues. You need to stop eating so much sugar. You know, at that point, you could have gotten them on a low, no sugar diet. Say, eat meats and veggies only. That's all I want you to do. Give them tons of gymnema and golden seal in order to lower their blood sugar. And that would have helped with their immune response big time. So even if you do get it, now there's actually what the medical community would consider therapeutics that can actually help with that. So if you get it and you can recover, or you can take a therapeutic that's going to get you better faster, then why on earth do you need a vaccine? You don't. However, this is one of the things that absolutely blows my mind when it comes to this biologic, is that literally what they do is they change the expression of these white blood cells. So here you get it, and it's uptaken in through B lymphocytes, and it actually teaches the B lymphocytes to start kicking out an antigen. So in order to kick out this spike protein, so that the immune system can then start to make antibodies to it. This is what's absolutely crazy. Now remember, if something is secreting an antigen, it will raise up a flag on the surface of that cell and saying, I am a foreign invader, which is a great way, in my opinion, to kick off an autoimmune response. That's how autoimmunity works. And the immune system is just going to do its job and saying, we need to kill off anything that doesn't belong inside of our body. So one of the biggest things with autoimmunity, guys, is that it is really just a trigger. It's the immune system trying to clean up cells that do not belong in the body. So I am 100% against it. You will not give it to me. I'll give you a huge heck no, not ever. And in fact, a lot of people ask me this question. They're like, what should I say? Everyone's looking down at me because I'm not taking the vaccine. And I'm like, they're looking down on you because you're letting them look down on you. You need to be proud and you need to be bold that When they say you're going to take the vaccine, heck no. No. Why on earth would you want to do that? It is stupid. They haven't even tested this. You guys understand? They have not tested it. And in fact, they actually have never tested all vaccines. Don't even get me started, because when they test a vaccine on its efficacy, they give you a different vaccine and they give you another vaccine. So there's no double-blind, clinically controlled studies when it comes to any vaccine whatsoever. Now, what is your opinion on a vegan diet to reduce cholesterol numbers? Well, here's the thing. Most of your cholesterol is produced in the liver. Your cholesterol is produced based on need. Okay, so eating cholesterol does not raise your cholesterol levels. Your liver is making cholesterol in order to repair. So it needs to repair our arteries, it needs to repair or needs to produce more hormones, because the backbone of your whole entire steroid hormone system is actually cholesterol. So think of this, cortisol is made from cholesterol. Estradiol is made from cholesterol. Testosterone is made from cholesterol. Progesterone is made from cholesterol. All of it is. So if you are making more, figure out why you are making more cholesterol. Because many times what will happen is I'll see very high cholesterol numbers when someone has a thyroid issue. I'll see very high cholesterol numbers when someone has an active infection like mold or some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Lyme disease, okay? You will see mold and Lyme, you'll see people have very high cholesterol numbers. And actually it's because the body is trying to wall off certain areas in order for protection, especially when it comes to the brain. So, but does a vegan diet lower cholesterol? Well, what's going to lower cholesterol the most is not being so inflamed. So figure out why the cholesterol is high and then figure that out. But a vegan diet, I would actually say is there's so many holes in a vegan diet because a lot of times when I see people that are eating a vegan diet that's full of soy, it's full of sugar, it's full of a lot of carbs, and they're also missing out on a lot of methylated B vitamins and things like that having red meat or having organ meat can lend itself to. So a lot of times when I look at vegans, I say, hey, eat a doggone steak, for crying out loud. It would probably benefit you. In fact, if I would lean one way on vegan versus being 100% all meat, I would say the person who is actually on all meat would do better, okay? But again, that's just my opinion. What is your opinion on treating cancer after one is diagnosed? All right, this is an interesting question because remember, there's a lot of different types of cancer. So my question would be, well, what type of cancer is it? All right, because there is a difference between like colon cancer, for example, and breast cancer. So let me give you an example. Colon cancer is because ultimately when it comes to cancer, ultimately the failure has taken place with the immune system. So that's clear across the board when it comes to cancer, is that ultimately, because remember, your natural killer cells, your CD8 cells, are responsible for killing off virally infected cells and also killing off cancer cells. So if those cells start to become low, then what happens is you create a toxic environment and it can't kill off those cells fast enough while those cells are being produced. So I want you to think about it. It's kind of like here you have, let's see if I can get in here. You have the immune system is able to kill off cancer, but on the other aspect, your lifestyle is not making the cancer cells. So really what you need to do is raise up the immune system and then start to decrease what would be causing it in the first place. So it just depends on the type of cancer. Also depends on what stage they're in, on when they're getting diagnosed. So if you look at breast cancer, for example, yes, you have an immune system, but think of this. What would cause that breast tissue to grow abnormal tissue? And it's actually in response to hormones. So you got like hormone-based cancers, you got more inflammatory-based cancers like colon cancer. And it just depends on then where's the immune system at, and then what's going on with inflammation or with uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, or with breast cancer. What's going on with their hormone metabolism as well. Now, am I 100% opposed to chemotherapy? Nope. A lot of it is going to depend on what their tumor load is. So am I against someone getting a tumor removed? No. If they need to lower their tumor burden, then yeah, you probably should do that. There's a great test that you can look at. It's known as CEA. And that CEA test will show how quickly you are producing quickly growing tissue inside of your body. So it's a good looking at that, and it's very elevated. Means that, yep, this is something that could potentially be spreading very quickly. There's other ones where people have been diagnosed with cancer and they have a very low CEA number. And if that's the case, it's like you don't need to go to those drastic measures like chemo or things like that, because this is very slow growing in the first place. Chemo doesn't touch cancers that are very slow growing because if they have a slow metabolism, it's not chemo doesn't really work all that well. It's why chemo works so well with anything involving the lymph system, because white blood cells have a very high metabolism and they're turned over very quickly. So that's why it has such a high success rate when it comes to that. So I would say what grade are they in, or what stage are they in, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then what type of cancer is it, and then obviously you need to test. Now remember this, is that in no way, shape, or form do I ever treat cancer or anything like that, but what we do is try to get the body back to a state of normal. Because remember, you're making cancer cells every single day. Your immune system's keeping up with it. So you really need to figure out, what am I doing to create the cancer? And then what can we do in order to get that immune system back up? All right. So guys, awesome questions. I always appreciate that. So if you guys are in the Yorkville area, coming up, I want to say March 27th. It's on a Saturday. Let's see, the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. Yeah, it's going to be March 27th. Here at Exemplify Health Center. It is an in-person event. We're going to be talking about thyroid, the untold story. So the thyroid is fascinating, but I have people who come to me all the time and they're saying, I need thyroid help. And remember this, the thyroid is not really the cause. The thyroid is the result. So with your hormones are a result. They're not the cause. So the thyroid is getting sick. And chances are it's because there's other things that are involved. There's a lot of different reasons why the thyroid can be off. A lot of it is related to stress. A lot of it is related to you just might not be getting enough nutrients. But I will tell you this, that is very far between. The number one reason why there's some kind of thyroid issue that is going on has to do with having an autoimmune reaction, okay? So if you have been diagnosed with being hypothyroid, chances are there is an autoimmune reaction that's taking place. And remember, in order to properly test the thyroid, there are 13 markers that we use in order to figure out what is going on in the thyroid. And remember this, many times the doctor will only use 1, 2, very rarely 3, and almost 0 do I ever see testing more than 3 markers when it comes to the thyroid. So March 27th, I believe at 10 o'clock a.m. at Exemplify Health Center. This is an in-person event. You guys can actually go to the top of the page. Coming up in the next couple of days, we'll post that on there to be able to register on our Eventbrite link. I hope to see you guys there. And if you are from the Yorkville area, anywhere from a 20-mile radius, or heck, we had some people from Green Bay at our last talk. If you want to come down from Green Bay, totally fine. We'll help you find a doctor that'll be a little bit closer to you. So thyroid, guys, we are looking at the thyroid from a completely different perspective. And one that is sane, one that's going to help you. But just remember this, for any of you that's taking a thyroid medication like Synthroid, did you know that there is a contraindication to taking Synthroid? And that is having adrenal insufficiency. And I've seen a few times where these people have had adrenal insufficiency and the doctor never tested it and it made them even more sick. So guys, get your answers in regards to the thyroid coming up March 27th, 10 o'clock here at Exemplify Health Center. Just keep a watch on this link at the top of our page. But guys, make sure that you share this. Make sure that you like this. I appreciate, guys, all of your questions. I'll be jumping in and out during the rest of the week. But if you have any other ideas as far as what you would like me to talk about, leave a comment below. I'll happily consider that. And guys, I hope you have a great Monday. Have a great lunch. Have a great rest of your week. We will talk to you soon.